She didn't save him. She saved herself. From loneliness, from emptiness, from the silence. And he kept playing. But this time, not on the street, in her life. The wind bit through Asher Cole's coat like it held a grudge. Early November in Manhattan could be cruel, but not crueler than memory. His fingers, reddened and raw, danced over the strings of his beaten acoustic guitar with a precision born from years of training, now blurred by time, dirt, and frostbite. Each note he played drifted out over the Soho sidewalk like a secret. People passed, barely glancing. Some dropped coins. Most didn't. He didn't look up. Not anymore. Across the street, Ava Lancaster stepped out of the Blacktown car, high heels tapping against the pavement like clockwork. Her assistant trailed behind, juggling fabric swatches, an oat milk latte, and a tablet streaming her schedule. Ava didn't notice the music at first. She was thinking about the investors' meeting, about the disastrous sample that arrived yesterday, about the way the press kept calling her the Ice Queen of Fashion. She liked that title. Most days. But the music tugged at her, soft at first, like something brushing her shoulder. A minor chord held too long, a shift into something plaintive, unresolved. She stopped walking. "Miss Lancaster?" her assistant asked. Ava didn't respond. She turned, slowly, searching for the sound. Her gaze landed on a man sitting cross-legged beside a boarded-up storefront. Guitar case open. Head down. Ragged hoodie pulled up over a mess of dark curls. The music was coming from him. Raw, haunting, deliberate. She crossed the street before she made the decision. Her heels clicked like they didn't belong here. Asher saw the polished boots first, then the legs in tailored trousers, the wool coat cinched at the waist, and finally, her face. Sharp, flawless, unreadable. He kept playing, his fingers stubborn. She didn't say anything until he finished. "What's your name?" she asked. He blinked. "Depends who's asking." She smiled, faintly. "Ava Lancaster." That name meant something. He narrowed his eyes. "Did I do something wrong, Miss Lancaster?" "No," she said. "You did something right. That piece you played. Did you write it?" "Maybe," he said. She knelt, ignoring the cold concrete beneath her knees. "I need music for a show. 4 weeks. Something real. Something like that." She gestured to the air between them. "You just earned yourself a gig." Asher's laugh was dry. "Lady, I don't even have a phone. You want me to compose for you? I want you to write what I just heard. Everything else we'll figure out." He stared at her. "This a joke?" She stood. "Do I look like someone who jokes?" He looked her over. No, she didn't. She looked like a Vogue spread brought to life. "I don't work for free." She nodded. "Of course not. How much for everything you have here?" He blinked again. "What?" "The guitar. The case. The notebooks in your bag. The music in your head." He tilted his head. "You want to buy me?" "I want to hire you. You don't know me. I know you're better than anything I've heard in weeks." He hesitated. "I don't have an address. I have a studio. There's a cot, heat, and food. You'll work there." A pause. Then, "Asher. Asher Cole." "Ava Lancaster," she said again, and held out her hand. He didn't shake it, but he stood, packed up slowly. The guitar groaned as he lifted it. The strings were frayed, the case scarred with duct tape. He followed her without another word. Inside the town car, silence stretched. Ava checked her phone. Asher stared at the glass. He saw his reflection next to hers, scruffy, hollow-eyed, next to something sculpted and glossy. He looked like a mistake. The building rose like a silver blade against the sky. Ava's name glowed above the revolving doors. Security tried to stop them. She didn't break stride. In the elevator, he cleared his throat. "So, what's the catch?" "No catch. Just deadlines. What kind of music? Whatever makes people feel." He huffed. That's vague. That's fashion. They arrived on the 14th floor. Open space, glass walls, racks of clothing, mood boards pinned with threads and photos. A minimalist piano stood in the corner. "You'll stay here," she said, nodding toward a small room near the back. He stepped inside. A fold-out bed. A lamp. A desk. "I've had worse," he said. "I figured." She left him there. That night, Asher sat on the cot and stared at the ceiling. For the first time in months, he was warm. Full. Sober. Suspicious. He reached into his bag, pulled out a crumpled page. Notes scratched in pencil. The melody he'd played that morning. He hummed it, low and careful. Down the hall, Ava sat alone in her office. She couldn't stop hearing the sound he'd made on that corner. She couldn't explain why it had gotten to her. Why him? Why now? She closed her laptop and turned off the light. The morning sun leaked through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting long golden lines across polished concrete. Asher Cole blinked against the light, momentarily disoriented. The silence of the studio was too clean, too sterile. No sirens, no subway rumbles, no footsteps scraping by his head. He swung his legs off the cot, feet brushing the soft rug. A mug of black coffee sat on the desk beside a clean notepad. No note, just the coffee. He didn't trust it. Still, he drank it. The main room was empty when he emerged. A few mannequins stood like frozen sentinels, half-dressed in silk and lace. Fabric bolts lined one wall, beside towers of shoeboxes labeled in sharp black script. A piano gleamed by the window, untouched. He walked toward it slowly, like it might vanish if he moved too fast. The keys were ivory, real ivory, not plastic. He sat, hesitated, then played a single note. The sound rang out like a bell in a church no one visited anymore. Behind him, Ava's voice came sharp. "It's in tune. Don't worry." He turned. She wore a dark green turtleneck dress, hair swept up, eyes unreadable. She carried her phone like a weapon. "Didn't expect you to show up this early," he muttered. "I work. That's what I do." He gave a slow nod. "So, what now?" She walked to a nearby table stacked with magazines, sketches, and swatches. "Now you work. I want a piece that builds. 30 seconds of ambient tension, then it needs to break into something aching. Specific. I'm a designer. Vague emotions, precise execution." He didn't move. She looked up. "Problem? I don't know what you're asking for. You want sad? Hopeful? Desperate? I want real." He exhaled. "Lady, you hired a ghost with a guitar and no socks. That's all I've got." She studied him. "Good. Then start." He played. Slowly. A few chords, a scale. The melody he'd written down yesterday. It didn't sound the same here. Too clean. Ava listened, unmoving. When he stopped, she said nothing. "That's it?" he asked. She nodded. "It's a start." He frowned. "I'm not your employee. You're on my payroll. No contract, no rules. You're here. That's enough for now." A silence stretched between them. Finally, she said, "Why did you stop?" He shrugged. "People stopped listening. Maybe they didn't deserve to." He looked at her like she'd said something dangerous. "You don't know me. I don't need to know you to hear what you played." He turned back to the piano. "You'll regret this." "I doubt that." By week's end, Asher had turned the spare room into a kind of den. Pages of music covered the desk. Strings, headphones, old recordings filled the shelves. He worked in bursts, sometimes for hours, sometimes only minutes. But when he played, the entire studio seemed to pause. Ava watched from a distance. She didn't hover, but she noticed things. The way he muttered to himself when stuck. How he refused help but took coffee every morning without thanks. How he slept fully clothed, as if ready to leave at any moment. One evening, she walked in just as he finished a rough cut. "Play that again," she said. He did. She stood behind him this time, arms crossed, not speaking. When the last note faded, she whispered, "Where did you learn to do that?" He hesitated. "Juilliard." She blinked. "Wait. Seriously?" "Yeah." "You went to Juilliard?" "I was a scholarship student. Composition." "What happened?" He stared at the floor. "Life." She waited. He didn't continue. "You don't have to tell me," she said. "I don't want to," he said. She didn't press further. But, that night, she found his name in an old Juilliard archive. A rising star. Concerts. Competitions. Then, nothing. No news. No interviews. A single line in a 2019 alumni bulletin. In memoriam. Rachel Cole, class of 2019. His sister, she guessed. She closed the laptop and sat in the dark. A few days later, she brought him dinner. He didn't ask for it, but he didn't refuse. "You live here?" he asked between bites. "Sometimes, when I'm working late." "Looks like a museum. Most of it's for show." He looked around. "You like it?" "It's mine." "That's not what I asked." She didn't answer. He looked at her. "You ever wonder what you'd be doing if you hadn't been born rich?" "No." "Why not?" "Because I was. And I have work to do." He snorted. "That's honest." She leaned back. "You want a different answer?" He smiled, just a little. "Number, I like honest." They didn't talk much after that, but the tension between them changed. It wasn't hostility anymore. It was something else. Like static before a storm. He played longer. She stayed later. Once, she dozed off on the sofa while he worked. He covered her with a blanket without waking her. Another night, she found a melody on her voicemail. No words. Just piano. It made her cry, though she didn't know why. He never asked what she thought. She never told him. But the music kept coming. Rain fell in thin, needling lines against the studio's tall windows. The city outside blurred, muffled by gray. Inside, Asher played. Not for work, not for the show. Just played. Ava stood at the edge of the room, watching. He hadn't noticed her yet. His fingers moved like memory, not effort. No script. No structure. Just emotion. When he finally looked up, he didn't stop. Just nodded slightly. "You always play like that when no one's listening?" she asked. "I always assume no one is." She stepped closer. "That piece. I've never heard it. I wrote it last night. Or maybe this morning. Hard to tell." She sat across from him, her heels clicking softly on the floor. "Play it again." He did. Slower this time. When the final note faded, neither spoke for a long time. "I feel like I've heard it before," she said. "You probably have. It's made of things I can't forget." He stood and moved to the window, arms crossed. "Did you write music for her?" Ava asked quietly. Stiffened. "Who?" "Rachel." He flinched. "You Googled me." "I did." He sighed. "She played violin. We used to write together, every weekend. Then one night, drunk driver. She was gone. I dropped out 2 weeks later. Never touched real composition again. Until you." Ava didn't look away. "I'm sorry." He nodded, barely. "She would have liked you. She liked difficult people." "I'm not difficult." He turned. "You're impossible." For a moment they both smiled. Just a flicker. Days passed. The rain didn't. Asher's music deepened. Ava stopped giving instructions. She just sat and listened. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't. But silence between them stopped feeling empty. One night, power flickered. Storm. The room went dark. Ava cursed softly, reached for her phone. "Don't," he said. "Wait." He lit a candle. Then sat at the piano and played by firelight. The notes felt warmer, like breath in winter. Ava sat on the floor, knees pulled to her chest. I used to dance, she whispered. He kept playing. Ballet. Until I was 16. I was good. But I was never great. My mother said it was a waste of time. So I stopped. He looked at her. Do you regret it? I regret listening to her. He stopped playing. Silence fell again. I wish I could write something for you, he said. You are. Later that week, she brought 2 glasses of wine and a record player. You know this one? She asked, placing a vinyl on the turntable. Asher listened. Bill Evans. Live at the Village Vanguard. She smiled. Impressive. He shrugged. I know what's good. They sat on the floor, leaning against opposite walls. Do you ever miss it? She asked. Juilliard? No. The version of you before the world collapsed. He was quiet. Sometimes. But I like this one better. Why? He doesn't expect anything. She took a sip of wine. I think I do. Miss the old me. Before I built the armor. He glanced over. You built it well. She nodded. Too well. The record crackled. Outside, traffic hummed. Inside, something shifted. By Friday, the song was nearly complete. He played it for her. Full version. No interruptions. When he finished, she didn't clap. She just looked at him, like trying to remember something lost. That's not just a piece, she said. It's a confession. Yeah, he said softly. It is. She stepped closer, close enough to smell his shirt. Faint coffee and dust. I want to kiss you right now, she said quietly. He didn't move. Then why don't you? Because I'm not sure if it's part of the song. Or something else. He leaned forward, inches from her. Does it matter? They hovered there, breath mingling, neither crossing the line. Then Ava stepped back. It matters to me. Asher nodded. Okay. The next morning he was gone. Not his stuff. Just him. The bed untouched. Coffee cold. Ava checked her phone. Nothing. She paced the studio. Hours passed. By sunset, she left. Drove through Soho, Lower East Side, parks, bridges. No sign of him. She returned after midnight. He was sitting on the floor, coat wet, guitar in hand. I thought you left, she said. I almost did. Why? He looked up. Because I thought you would. Once it got real. She didn't speak. He stood. I don't know how to do this. Neither do I. They stared at each other. Then she said, Don't leave again. He nodded. Okay. She turned, started to walk away. But this time, he followed. The day of the show dawned cold and bright. Ava moved like clockwork, checking hems, approving makeup, ignoring nerves. Asher, quiet in the corner, adjusted audio levels, finalizing the mix. Neither spoke much. The space between them was charged, like the hum before a storm. The venue, an abandoned train terminal turned runway, echoed with anticipation. Metal beams, concrete floors, a high glass ceiling that caught the light just right. The stage was set. Ava's world, her vision. And Asher's sound wove through it all. She handed him a final cue sheet. He handed her the flash drive. You sure? He asked. I trust you, she said, and turned before she could see the way he looked at her. Guests poured in. Editors, buyers, influencers. Flashbulbs lit the air like fireworks. Ava greeted them with poise, but her mind circled Asher's music like a prayer. Backstage, tension snapped in whispers and zipper malfunctions. Ava didn't flinch. She was built for pressure. Asher stayed out of sight, near the sound booth, watching shadows move. Then lights dimmed. Silence fell. The first note played. The crowd inhaled. Asher's composition began as a whisper. Low piano, drawn strings, the sound of a held breath. A model stepped onto the runway. Music swelled, growing with each look, building emotion into fabric. Something raw threaded through the melody. It wasn't background. It was the story. People noticed. Phones lowered. Eyes widened. A critic leaned forward. A buyer blinked tears. By the finale, the room was hypnotized. When it ended, silence hung for one stunned beat. Then a wave of applause crashed through the terminal. Backstage, Ava froze. For the first time in months, her eyes filled. Asher saw her. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Moments later, Derek Vale found her. Tailored, slick, charming as poison. Ava. Brilliant. Best show yet. Music was... He shook his head. Incredible. Who was it? Ava hesitated. Internal. No name? He prefers privacy. Derek's smile slipped. There's chatter. A man was seen entering your building. Not our usual collaborator type. He's a genius, she said evenly. He's a risk, Derek countered. Investors don't like risk. Optics matter. If you want continued funding. Let me guess. He disappears. Exactly. Ava didn't answer. She turned and walked away. She found Asher near the back exit, guitar in hand. You heard? He asked. I did. I'll make it easy, he said. I'll go. That's not what I want. But it's what they want. And they own your future. Not all of it. Enough. She touched his sleeve. Come with me. They stepped out into the alley. Cold air bit their skin. You changed everything, she said. So did you. He looked at her like it hurt. Do you regret it? Not for a second. But you'd still choose them. I never said that. You didn't have to. He brushed her cheek. This was always temporary. I thought it could be more. So did I. That's why I have to leave. Where will you go? Somewhere quiet, where music doesn't have to fight the noise. Will you write? Only if I feel something. Did you feel something here? Everything. They stood in silence. Finally, she said, Then don't say goodbye. Say, see you later. He kissed her forehead. See you later, Ava Lancaster. And then he walked into the night. She didn't stop him. The next day, the studio felt empty. Everyone buzzed about the show. Praise poured in. Offers doubled. But Ava barely smiled. She played his music in the evenings, volume low, lights off. It echoed. It haunted. It healed. A week passed. A letter arrived. No return address. Inside, a typed acceptance to a prestigious residency in Vermont. Composer, Asher Cole, sponsored anonymously. Her hands trembled. Later that night, a box came. Sheet music inside. Title handwritten. Ava in D minor. No message. No need. She placed it on the piano. Saturday played. As the final note faded, she exhaled. And for the first time since he left, she felt whole. The city was louder now. Or maybe Ava just noticed it more without his music softening the edges. The studio, once alive with tension and sound, stood still. The piano untouched. The couch where she'd once fallen asleep near him still held the imprint of memory. Her staff celebrated. Sales surged. Investors were pleased. Derek Vale even mentioned expansion in Paris. But none of it touched her. Every night she played Ava in D minor, and every night it left her more hollow. Asher had disappeared completely. No social media, no address, no trail. She tried to keep busy. Fittings, interviews, new concepts. But the city felt grayer without him. Sometimes she thought she saw him in the crowd. A flash of curls. A worn coat. But it was never him. She began avoiding places they'd shared. Avoided music altogether. It hurt too much. Then one day, walking home from a brunch she barely remembered attending, she passed a tiny cafe tucked between a bookstore and a laundromat. A melody drifted from within. Something gentle. Familiar. She froze. It wasn't one of his compositions, but the style was unmistakable. She stepped inside. The place was dim, cozy, filled with mismatched furniture and the smell of espresso. A few people, sat scattered at tables. In the corner, a man played an upright piano, head down, fingers fluid. She stepped closer. Her heart stuttered. It was him. Thinner, maybe. Paler. But it was Asher. He didn't see her at first. He played as if possessed. The notes were warm, aching, alive. When he looked up, his hands faltered. Their eyes locked. For a long moment, neither moved. Then he stood. She crossed the room without thinking. "Hi," she said. "Hi," he echoed. "I didn't know you'd be here. I wasn't supposed to be. Are you playing here now?" "Sometimes. It's quiet. They let me stay late. I missed you. I missed you more." She reached for his hand. He let her. "You didn't write," she whispered. "I couldn't. But you sent the music. It said more than I could. Why Vermont?" "I needed distance. And silence." It was hers alone. "She would have liked you," he whispered. "She would have loved you," Ava replied. In July, they adopted a rescue dog, half-blind, all stubborn. They named her Melody. The studio became her kingdom. In September, they opened a residency for young artists. No resume needed, just a question. What's the one thing you still dream about? The answers made them cry, made them remember, made them fight harder. Autumn came, then cold, then the question. "Will you marry me?" he asked one quiet evening, handing her a ring carved from old guitar wood, etched with the notes of their first piece. Ava stared at him, silent. "I know it's not diamonds," he said, "but it's music, and it's ours." She blinked away tears. "This is the only yes I've ever been sure of." They married in a greenhouse, surrounded by wildflowers and off-key instruments. 5 guests. Melody barked through the vows. It was perfect. No media, no headlines, just promise. Afterward, they danced barefoot in the garden, her head on his chest, his hand steady on her back. Winter softened the world again. Ava's designs grew warmer, softer, less structured. Asher's music slowed, stretched, lingered. They spent one weekend in total silence, communicating only with looks and touch. At the end, she said, "I love you more when you're not trying to say anything." He smiled. "That's how I know it's real." They grew older. Not much, but enough to feel time as a gift, not a curse. Enough to treasure mornings with burnt toast and mismatched socks. One evening, Ava found a box of unused fabric scraps. She turned them into a patchwork coat for Asher. He wore it to every concert after that. On their anniversary, he handed her sheet music titled, "Forever If You Stay." She answered by tracing the notes on his back with her fingers, then kissing him like nothing else existed. And truly, in that moment, nothing else did. They didn't need validation. They needed mornings that began with music, and nights that ended with her falling asleep to the sound of him breathing. They needed belief in what they'd built. They needed each other. That was all. In the end, it wasn't a contract or a performance or a collection that defined them. It was the choice they made, again and again, in silence and storm, in applause and absence, to stay. And when someone once asked Ava how they survived the chaos, the critics, the compromise, she said, "We never saved each other. We just reminded each other who we were before the world got loud." That was the truth. That was the music. That was love. If this story moved you, hit that follow button. More raw, powerful, and unexpected love stories are coming.